Hello there and welcome back to another video. This week I'm going to be doing a redraw of an illustration that I drew first in December 2013 and then I redrew November 2014. So now it's going to be the second time I've redrawn it since I've drawn the original, and it cut a little bit in like the first little part of the video. My iPad for some reason wasn't recording. I've been having a lot of trouble with it having like started recording, but anyway, this is the original version of the drawing. I called it just like yo because it just felt like the kind of gesture that the guy was making. And then this is the second time I drew it in November 2014. What I really liked about the first time that I drew it was that I left the line art like a brown, and I also left it like really sketchy compared to at the time I always was like really hyper focused on trying to have super clean line art, but then later on I started just trying to experiment with having it looser. But it would be a really long time between that December 2013 when I first drew it to when I would be like a little bit more comfortable having like rougher lines. And then the time I redrew it in November 2014, it was because I just sort of felt like doing a draw this again, and I asked my friend Saf to pick out something for me to redraw, and so she picked that one because she always really liked it. I think it might have something to do with the fact that he's got a lot of green clothes and green hair and stuff like that, and her favorite color is green. But anyway, I was like, when she told me to redraw it, it had been like 11 months since I'd drawn the original, and I typically at that time tried to redraw illustrations that I'd drawn like a lot further back ago so that the improvement would be like more obvious. So I was super intimidated when it came to redrawing the first one, but I felt really happy with the result. I think that I really improved in colors and line art, but there were a lot of things that were lacking. Like I still had sort of, you know, weird non-illustrated textures in the background. The pose I think actually got worse, like not so much the hands and the face and stuff like that, but the legs from the 2013 to the 2014 version. I'm not quite happy with the way the legs turned out in the 2014 version. They look kind of broken and not in perspective and stuff like that. And then also the one thing that I felt was really the main problem with both the 2013 and the 2014 versions was that it felt like in neither one was my character actually like sitting on the ground or in the environment. It felt like he was kind of floating in both because I didn't quite know how to make the shadows look like he was on the ground, like there were surfaces touching. So it was like really a challenge and really complicated. But anyway, so redrawing it now, it's 2019, I've grown. It's been like what, 4 years? No, can I math? 5 years? Oh my god, it's been 5 years in 2014. I can't it's been too long. Oh my god, I can't believe it's been 5. I was thinking more like 2-3 years. No, it's been 5 years since I drew the 2014 version. It feels like just yesterday. Seriously, what the hell? Anyway, so I started off redrawing it on my iPad Pro, like I said, and it didn't record like the origins of the sketch. Luckily I only really had like just sort of a gesture for it down, and like my goal with this wasn't really to like get more detailed, because I felt like the 2014 version was like too detailed in a sense. I just wanted it to like have a little bit more punch. I wanted it to like, I don't know, tell more of a story. So here you see me starting to add in a skateboard, because I always sort of viewed him as a skater boy. She was a skater boy, she said see you later. Anyway, Avril Lavigne break. But no, yeah, so I wanted it to be a little bit more skater inspired, because I always felt like him that way. I wanted it to be a little bit more unified. I wanted it to seem like it like kind of fit. I wanted to push the perspective a bit further. I wanted it to feel a little bit more like worm's eye view, so from the bottom up, but without making it like that extreme. So the ways that I pulled that off was first one was I made just like his face perspective, just a lot more like top down, and the way that I did that in the 2014 version was through his nose, but I didn't really follow through with that perspective through his like chin and his eyes and his mouth. It didn't really feel like a fisheye view for the rest of the illustration, so it sort of felt like disconnected. Well, this time I took a lot of care to make it so it's really like a fisheye view for his entire face. Especially the mouth and the nose, and of course the eyes as well look like a fisheye view, I think. But yeah, so I took like care to make that look like a fisheye view, and then also I made it so his foot is foreshortened, and also we see a lot more of just like the bottom of his foot right in your face, and the bottom of his foot, like his foot entirely, like the one that's closest to the viewer, is like 1.5 times the size of his head, which I don't know about you, but most people don't have feet more than like 1.5 times the size of their heads. And also one of his hands I also felt was a little bit foreshortened, so it's like he's like raising it, but he's raising it up a little bit forwards, so it's also like a little bit larger than it should be. But I was trying to push that, as well as his legs kind of concealing more of his torso. I think that was one thing that the 2013 version I did better than in the 2014 version, because I don't know what I was trying to do. I was trying to make it seem, like I know how to draw legs better now, and I ended up drawing worse legs than before because there was like less overlap to it. But anyway, so it was all these things I was taking care to try to, just show in this new version. I'm not sure if there's too much of a drastic jump and improvement when you see them all side by side, but I do believe that I feel like a lot more confident and comfortable just doing it different. Also, like, just the overall, like, obviously this isn't going to show until I start colouring and painting and shading and all that, but I felt like it just overall looks like more of a cohesive piece. It feels more like it was drawn by one person rather than like the mishmash of textures than the previous two were. And I don't know, I just feel like happier with it all around. Not that I'm still like not at the point where I look at the old versions and I'm like, how could I have ever drawn that? No, I'm still kind of like, for the time it was stuff that I was really proud of. But also, like, when I started looking at them more carefully, like, I hadn't even noticed, like, because I looked at them every now and again when I scrolled through my, like, drawing folders, but I never really noticed just how much was wrong with them. Like, all these things that I was saying about the legs perspective, the mishmash of textures, the way that the face doesn't really match with the perspective, not all elements are looking the same way. And like, I knew that they didn't look like they were sitting in the scene, that they looked like they were floating, sort of. They didn't feel like the surface of their bodies were matching with like the surface of the ground. I knew that much, but like, just to the extent that it went, like, I really didn't understand shadows and cohesive light sources at all. So this is the point in the illustration where I went off of my iPad and I switched to Photoshop, because up until this point I was drawing it, I think, in one sitting, but I was like on and off. So throughout the whole day I was like pulling up the iPad, drawing for like half an hour and then putting it down, and then grabbing it again, drawing for another half hour, putting it down, that sort of thing, for like basically an entire day, until I got to the point where all the base colours were done. And then I was just, I don't know, I felt like going into Photoshop to make it easier on myself, because I'm still thinking with my iPad Pro that I don't know, like, it's convenient in terms of like you can draw digital art anyway. You don't have to be sat at your desk with your Photoshop computer, with your drawing tablet, with your trackpad, your keyboard, all these different things. It takes away that complication, but it also makes just the process a little bit more clunky. It makes me feel a lot less efficient, like drawing. Like it takes more steps to go. Like, it feels less like a seamless relationship between me and my art. It feels less like it's like the sword is a part of me. When you're like, well, no, most people don't know sword fighting, but they say that when you're a master swordsman, the sword is an extension of your body. So that's how I sort of feel it with like my Photoshop setup, because when I'm with my Wacom and with Photoshop on my big computer in my chair, just like the tools vanish and all that's left is me and my art process. But I haven't been able to find that sort of relationship with the iPad, because there's just so many like glitches and clunky and having to go tap menus, and like the pressure sensitivity doesn't really work how I want it. It's just, I don't know, there's still barriers. So if I really want to have like a good session of sit down, bang something out and boom, get it done, then my iPad still isn't the tool for me, even though it is really convenient and I'm so happy I've got it. Like, I'm really happy I got it because of how convenient it is, and I can like travel and know that I'll still have access to digital art and all that. Like, I really enjoy that for having the iPad. But yeah, to try to get some like a decent painting, like especially for these draw this again type of situations where I'm basically competing with myself from a previous time, and I kind of really want to show myself up. I want to prove to the Candy from 2014, it's like, look how awesome you can get to be. But yeah, it's just, I don't know, when I switched to Photoshop and I got in the zone, it went a lot better. I wasn't quite sure how I wanted to like render it really. Like, I know I just wanted to do like basic shadows and stuff, but I wasn't sure if I wanted to like really push the colors, if I really wanted to like try to make it seem super like environmental and like hazy, or if I wanted it to be like contrasty to have it pop and stuff. But I just started painting and I got in the zone and I progressed and stuff like that. as I went on, one thing I noticed was that the perspective doesn't allow a lot of light to reach his eyes because it's kind of covered by his like brow and his fringe, but you know what, that's all right. I just feel like it's got, like, because the mouth is such a prominent thing, it feels like it still has the right energy. Another thing that I really enjoyed of doing this version in contrast to the previous versions that I've done is I learned a lot more about color relativity. So I kept my shadows and highlights more cohesive, while in the 2013 version I wasn't really paying attention. I was just I don't think I knew about hue shifting at the time. So for 2013 I just grabbed the yellow that I used for the background and grabbed a darker of the same yellow instead of grabbing a more reddish yellow or more orangish or whatever. For the green of his hair, I just grabbed a slightly darker version of that green, not a slightly bluer green. While in the 2014 version, I just grabbed whatever color made the base color look neon. So for the green of the clothes, the shadows went blue. But for the tan of his khakis, the shadows went orange. And that, I don't know if you know much about how lighting works, but it doesn't really work that way. If a shadow is cooler than the color, then the shadows have to be cooler in every color. So the way that I translated it to here is the shadow of the skin is a little bit more pinky than the like normal tone is a little bit more yellow. And then for like the trousers, you have the yellowish tan color, and then for the shadows you just have a gray color, because I wouldn't make an orange kind of shadow when orange is the complementary color to blue and all my other shadows are more towards blue. So anyway, that was one of the biggest things. Like, it feels a lot more cohesive, like I was saying, when I do it that way. And yeah, I just really feel happy. Like, I don't really necessarily feel that it's completely mind blowing when I put them side by side, but I do feel happy with the progress. And I just feel like the progress that is seen just reads like it signifies a lot more than what might be visible in terms of how I feel with my skills. Like and also ease of use. Like, it took me a long time. It took me 4 hours total to do this drawing, but most of that was because I was fighting with the iPad, not gonna lie. But yeah, anyway, this is basically the final illustration. We're just wrapping up some like background elements and stuff like that. I'm also going to do like a final comparison of 1 to 1 to 1 to 1, so you can see the whole progression of 2013 to 2014 to 2019. Oh yeah, we're doing the skateboard. Yeah, there's still a little bit left. I kind of jumped the gun on that one. I was looking up for inspiration on what to do for the skateboard design, and I found one just on Google, and I decided to kind of mimic it. It's not exactly the one I found, because the one I found has like that sort of a smiley face with a little pixel distortions, and then it also has a little let's glitch under it, and I didn't have the let's glitch. I just added the smiley face because I thought, I don't know, it felt similar to this character, but I also didn't feel, because I was thinking about doing a like splashier skateboard, but I ended up just going for a smiley because I didn't want to detract from the character. So anyway, here's the comparison of the 3 images. Let me know what you think. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, do all those lovely things, and I'll see you all next week.